I think I first moved abroad because it was a way for me to escape, right? So the first time I moved away at 16, it was an opportunity for me to escape my family where I felt like the black sheep. It's not like living with them was horrible, not at all. It's just I felt like the odd one out and I wanted to experiment something else to get to live with another family. And then I think the second time I moved abroad, it was still, I moved back to the US to be with my partner. Then I moved to Spain because I broke up with my partner and I just wanted to escape and be somewhere else. Then I moved to Brazil in the middle of my studies for my exchange, but I remember it being this breath of fresh air because I was such a good student. Like, I would really work, get good grades. Like, I would not really get crazy, not go out to party too much. And when I was in Brazil, like, this was really the place where I had so much fun. I traveled, I partied, I wasn't really stressed about studying. I Even though I had some hard classes like finance and Portuguese, that was hard. I learned a new language. It was just so refreshing. And when I got back to my studies, even though I really liked the school I was in, the people my friends, the people I had in my classes, I still could not wait to leave again. And ultimately, I was going to travel to Australia for a semester, and I didn't because I decided to choose a different path, apprenticeship, that gave me a different type of freedom, which was monetary freedom, right? My parents didn't have to pay for my school anymore, and I also got paid. So for me, that was like a huge win. And then I think, so funnily enough, when the last time I moved abroad, which was, well, no, I moved abroad to Thailand and Bali after my burnout, after I changed job, after I burnt out at 23. And that was definitely another escape once. That was so nice. I was working remotely when I moved in a new company, but it was just so nice. It felt so relaxing and it felt like the breath of fresh air that I needed after burning out and finishing my studies. And then the last time I moved abroad, when I moved to New Zealand with my partner, he's the one who got a job there and I followed. So I think it was the last time that I didn't intentionally choose it. And I think that's why the result was different. But I'll come back to that. So I think initially, every time I moved abroad, and even now, still in my life, when there are tougher periods, I get this need to move abroad, this need to start over in a new country, this need to be completely, enthralled in learning a new language, in a new culture, in meeting people, just being busy with everything being new. I still get that itch, I definitely do. But I think even though all those trips and all those moves around the world were so, like, they were so key to me becoming the person I am today. They were some of the best moments of my life, some of the hardest as well, but also some of the most enjoyable. And I think they were so good to my mental health and to allowing me the freedom to become the person I wanted to become without being, being kept down by what my family thought of me, who they thought I should be, what my current friends thought I should be, who they thought I should be. I just could get to start over, and I think sometimes it's good to do that. But I think one thing it really didn't do is actually save my mental health. I think every time I moved back to France, I realized that some things were still hard, like for instance, if I took Brazil, like my life in Brazil and in Lille, France could not have been more different. And when I got back, like I went back into heads down into my studies and really focused on that. It doesn't mean I didn't do anything fun. I think what I took from that year is that I still wanted to travel, I still wanted to have fun, so it was a bit less study focused that my first year studying. But still, like, I think when I would go back, I'd realize still that, like, my life was the same and I was still the same person more than I had changed. I had changed in some places, but I was still the same person. And of course, you're probably watching this video and you're like, if you're unhappy where you live, or if you're unhappy with the person you are where you live, why don't you move again? Why don't you go abroad again? And this is one thing that a therapist of mine told me once, and I kind of agree with, is like, it is important to also learn to be happy and to be yourself fully where you are. And I'm not saying that I'm not gonna move abroad again. I'm not saying that you should not move abroad. Like, sometimes just the culture, the people in a different country, in a different city are much closer to who we are truly and who we want to be. And so it can absolutely be a great choice, and I would highly recommend it if this is something you're thinking about. But what I also want to say is that if you want to make sure you've truly changed, like, going back to where you initially was and where you initially lived will help you to see to that. And so I think sometimes I used moving abroad as a band-aid instead of actually working on real change. And this is where, if I were to do this again, I would move abroad and enjoy it a lot and take everything I could from it. And I'm likely going to move abroad again, but I am also going to continue on that path where I am continuing to work through my traumas, where I am going to continue to work through my relationship with work, my relationship with myself, my relationship with others. Because if I just expect being in another country to change all of that, then it is going to be very short-lived. It is, I think, my demons are gonna end up catching up with me. And a good example of that was the last time I moved abroad was with my partner. We moved to New Zealand and he actually got a job there. And within a month, he was like, should we move? And I worked remotely, and New Zealand had always been this country on my radar, was where I was like, I so want to go there someday. I never thought I would get to live there, but I want to go there. And so in the moment, I felt so stressed. In the moment, I was like, I don't really want to do it, actually. Like, I had felt so stressed because I had been working for a year and a half at my new company, and after I had gotten back from those first few months living in Bali in Thailand, like those 4th month living in Southeast Asia, I got into some really bad habits. I would get up at like 7:30 in the morning and start working right away. My desk was in my bedroom. I would not even go to the co-working space. I would finish at like 7:30 p.m. to work, and I would just wait for my partner to be back. I was in a new city with him, so I didn't know anyone, and I didn't really make any effort to meet or anyone or make friends. And so I had gotten into a bad rhythm. And so I remember very distinctly when he asked me if I wanted to move to New Zealand, I was like, no. Like, no. But also I did not say no, because the second thought was like, you love traveling, you love living abroad. Like, when will you have the opportunity to live in New Zealand again? I mean, why would you let it pass up? Like, that doesn't look like you. And so I said yes. And so we moved to New Zealand. And in New Zealand, my partner worked at the university. I still worked from home, so I had to find a co-working space. But I think 2 weeks after we arrived, I remember we took the bus to go to the beach and to go on a day trip. And I arrived on the beach and I cried and I said, like, I hate it here. I feel so bad. Like, I don't know why I'm not enjoying it. And I went to the doctor because I had also started having panic attacks, which I didn't know what they were at the time. I had never experienced them. So I would, feel like I wasn't able to breathe. And the doctor told me that I was suffering from anxiety and depression. And so I had to be treated for depression again, a year and a half after my burnout. And this second time around, this is when I really realized I had to actively work on myself and work on healing and work on growing and changing, because everything I had done after my burnout was just a band-aid, and this had been emphasized by me moving to Bali and then to Thailand. I don't regret doing any of this. I loved moving there. I am going to go back there and live there for a few months if I can again. But I realized that if I didn't change something profoundly and if I didn't stop to, like, if I didn't stop using moving abroad as a band-aid and it didn't stop running, basically, because that's what it was for me a lot of the time. It was running away from who I am, from what I was experiencing, from my past. I was not gonna heal mentally. And this time around, that depression was a lot harder than the first time. Maybe because the first time it was caused by burnout, maybe because it was less deep. I have no idea. But what I am sure of is I remember having zero emotions, not wanting to do anything. I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry, I just didn't want to do anything. And that was so hard. Like, I think not feeling anything, which is what happened when you're suffering from depression, was so hard. And so as I was in New Zealand, I really started healing. I started working with a therapist again. I started, forcing myself to take the bus the morning. I didn't force myself to wake up at any time, but when I would wake up, I would eat breakfast and then I'd take the bus. I go to the co-working space, even if it was for just an hour, and then I'd walk back home, which was like a 40-minute trip, but through the mountains in Wellington. It was not the mountains, but through a forest within Wellington, and so it was just really, really nice. And I started, doing more sports. Like some days before going home, I would go to the pier where there was a bouldering gym, and I got to do bouldering there on my own, and I just really liked it. And then I started running again. I found a running group, and so I rebuilt myself while my partner was supporting me so much, but also he worked full-time at a university there, so he wasn't there during the week. And so I really focused on giving myself grace, allowing myself, to have spaces where I did nothing, I just watched series, but also making sure I still would do things to get out of my comfort zone. On the weekend, we would go camping. I remember the first night we went, I was like, there are so many noise, even when in New Zealand there aren't any predators. I mean, like, there aren't any dangerous animals. There's no snake, for instance. And at least dangerous to humans, let's say. And I remember doing all those things that got me out of my comfort zone, but also made me so happy. But all the while, I continued to work on myself. And so, if you're watching this video and you're already living abroad and you're thinking about moving abroad, like, my advice to you is do it. It's such a beautiful experience. It is amazing experiencing a new culture, moving somewhere. If you get to do it on your own, I think everyone should move abroad on their own once in their life, because you get to build such a relationship with yourself. You become more resilient, more reliant on yourself. You build more self-confidence. And yeah, just learning a new language, if you're like me, is something that is really fun and really enjoyable. So immersing yourself in different culture, I absolutely love it, and I will do it again. But what I want to caution you about is, if you feel like you're doing it because you're running away from something, and you're just gonna go live your life without actively working on what you're running away from, whether it's the version of you who lived in your home country, whether it's the people you lived with, whether it's, there's gonna be things to work out. There might be some trauma, there might be, some relationship issues that you owe it to yourself to work on, and to not just run away without doing that work. So if you're abroad, you can do that work while you're abroad, like I did in New Zealand. But I think it's so important to realize that living abroad is such a gift. It is such a privilege, but it shouldn't come to the expense of your mental health. It shouldn't be because you're running away and once you're there, you're like, perfect, there is nothing left for me to do. I'm in a new country, all my problems are gone. Because believe me, from my experience in New Zealand, your problems will eventually catch up to you if you don't work on them. So I hope this video was useful. If you are wondering, I am doing a lot better. Everything I'm talking about was 8 years ago now. So this is why working on you works and helps you to really, you know, heal your relationship with yourself and with others as well. Yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments, please subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow because I post videos every day on this channel. See you soon. Bye.